Welcome, students of the Word, to this explainer of Brother Woody Brohm's excellent essay, The Book of Song of Songs, a detailed overview. I'm delighted to guide you today through this rigorous, dispensational study of one of Scripture's most profound, beautiful, and, let's be honest, frequently misunderstood books. So settle in. We're approaching this text not merely as poetry, but as an absolute masterclass in divine wisdom. Here is the syllabus for our masterclass today. We're going to cover 1. The core 4 foundations, 2. Macro-level book structure, 3. The covenant framework, 4. The dispensational thread, 5. Enduring message for believers, and finally 6. Conclusion and pastoral blessing. Section 1. The core 4 foundations. Academic background. Okay, let's dive into this foundation. Before we can really appreciate the lyrical poetry of this book, we've got to establish the historical background to securely anchor the text. The author, patron, or central royal figure of this book is Solomon, and that firmly sets the date of writing during the United Monarchy's Golden Age, a time of unparalleled wisdom, peace, and wealth in Israel. The original audience? Well, that was Israel, a people living strictly under the administration of the Sinai Covenant. And the primary theme is a lyrical celebration of covenantal marital love. It is absolutely crucial to understand that this text is historically anchored right there in Israel's Golden Age. It's not just a disconnected, thin allegory floating up in the clouds. It is a literal celebration of embodied love within God's created design, delivered to a real people in a real historical context. Section 2. Macro-level book structure. Overarching themes. Now, what's really interesting about this structure is that unlike narratives that move from a single crisis to a tidy resolution, this book reveals a cyclical storyline unfolding in distinct seasons. Step 1 traces the courtship and anticipation in chapters 1:1 through 3:5, introducing the bride's longing and the early pastoral beauty of their connection. Then, this beautiful early courtship naturally leads right into step 2, the wedding and union, spanning from chapter 3:6 to 5:1. This is where love is publicly acknowledged, fiercely protected, and crowned in a communal celebration. But the narrative doesn't just end at the altar. Step 3 covers chapters 5:2 through 8:14, and it vividly depicts maturing love and perseverance. It shows the ongoing dedication, the painful near misses, and the deep forgiveness required in a maturing marriage, really proving that covenant love is a life of ongoing care and maintenance rather than just a single heightened emotional moment. Section 3. The covenant framework, grounded in God's law. This cyclical structure of marriage we just outlined is fundamentally anchored in God's covenants. As conservative scholars, we must read this text through a literal, grammatical, historical framework. This is a vital interpretive method, prioritizing the text's original literal meaning, which, in this specific case, is the physical and emotional covenant of marriage observed under the law before we even attempt to make any systematic or prophetic applications. You see, under the law, marital fidelity was never merely a private hobby or some secular contractual arrangement. No, it was a holy stewardship. It guarded the community's future, produced a godly seed, and visibly mirrored God's own steadfast faithfulness to a watching world. So the crucial point is this: the book is deeply theological, inhabiting both Eden's original memory and the prophetic promises of hope. As Genesis 2:25 reminds us, Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. The lover's garden in the song masterfully evokes this beautiful Edenic memory of unashamed, one-flesh intimacy exactly by God's perfect design. Yet we have to remember they speak from east of Eden. They are living in a fallen world where desire can be tragically misdirected or corrupted. And this is exactly why the text places hedges, firm boundaries, solemn warnings not to awaken love prematurely, and the watchful eyes of the city guards. These are entirely necessary to protect the sanctity and the safety of the covenant in a broken world. Section 4. The dispensational thread. Theological eras. Let's move to and see how this builds, observing how this robust theology applies beautifully across God's administrative timeline. We start in the era of creation, with Eden's original unfallen design for marriage, setting the baseline for human flourishing. Then comes the era of law, where Israel's covenant provided righteous, protective boundaries for this love, actively teaching the nation to fear the Lord in ordinary domestic life. Moving forward to the era of grace, the church sees marriage elevated as a living parable of the profound mystery of Christ and his bride. Finally, the future era points toward the messianic kingdom and ultimate prophetic fulfillment, where creation's curse fully recedes and harmony is perfectly restored. Across all these varying eras, the purified eros of the song becomes the sacred vocabulary for divine covenant, yet it does this without ever changing or diminishing its first literal meaning of a man and a woman in an earthly marriage. And this brilliantly illustrates a vital theological distinction we must actively maintain. Consider Israel under the law, focused distinctly on national promises, geographical land, and righteous boundaries. Contrast this with the church under grace, acting as a living global parable empowered intimately by the indwelling Spirit. We must strongly warn against the theological error of collapsing Israel's covenant into the church. The song clarifies this distinction beautifully. The law provided the righteous boundaries for love, showing the ancient Israelites what obedience looks like in their literal gardens and homes. But under grace, the indwelling Spirit fills believers today so that this exact same framework of love is internally empowered with divine patience, kindness, and self-control. The strict, systematic distinction between Israel and the church remains entirely intact and deeply respected. Section 5. Enduring Message for Believers. Practical Applications. Having securely established the systematic theology, let's transition to the profound application for believers today. The church today must avoid two extreme, frankly devastating interpretive errors when reading this text. The first error is reducing the song to a thin allegory. Approaching the text this way completely erases the gritty, beautiful, God-ordained reality of physical marriage. The opposite extreme is treating it as a secular technique manual. This modern error tragically erases God from the relationship entirely, turning a sacred, lifelong covenant into mere consumer appetite and biological function. Instead, believers are called to confidently navigate the middle path, inhabiting physical embodiment as a true act of worship, seeing our relationships as divine gifts to be blessed, enjoyed, and fiercely guarded under God's watchful eye. This brings us to some immensely practical, enduring pastoral lessons from the text. First, we must practice pacing and patience. As the text repeatedly warns us, do not awaken love until it so desires. Human desire must be carefully, prayerfully stewarded, not rushed or manipulated. Next, we are taught the absolute necessity of guarding our speech. We're to use our words like sweet spices in a garden to build our spouses up, rather than carelessly trampling over them. The song also beautifully models integrating work and love into ordinary life. Real affection isn't quarantined to pristine holidays. It happens right there among the sweaty vineyards and the bleeding flocks. Furthermore, it teaches us to fiercely resist the worldly commodification of persons, constantly honoring the inviolable image of God in one another. Finally, we see the absolute need for patiently cultivating affection through shifting seasons. The text powerfully shows us that seasons of relational distance or painful misunderstanding are not the end of the story. Rather, they are profound, God-given opportunities to pursue one another anew, to forgive deeply, and to lovingly rebuild. Section 6. Conclusion and Pastoral Blessing. Final doxological aim. As we reach the end of our rigorous study, let's look to the ultimate purpose of this magnificent book. The text declares, "Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm, for love is as strong as death, its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love, rivers cannot sweep it away." The theological weight of this book is simply undeniable. It honors human desire, it sanctifies pleasure, and it embeds both of these securely within the bedrock of covenant fidelity. Ultimately, the garden and city scenes of the song point us forward to a healed creation and a rightly ordered society under the Son of David in the coming Messianic kingdom. May the Lord profoundly bless your diligent study of His Word. May He grant you deep, abiding wisdom in your earthly relationships, and may His Holy Spirit empower you to love with patience and truth until the Beloved returns for His own. For more in-depth studies, visit the Grace and Knowledge series blog at woody-brohm.online.